Next up, mentality and risk-taking. One of my favorite notes is this idea of embedding a risk-taking approach into life and your career. Similar to the Seth Godin approach, where the obvious path may be the most risky over the long term. Don't fear the unknown. Go find your mental edge and crush it.
I would really encourage new grads to push their limits of comfort on risk-taking. So I think the number one thing, insecure overachievers, one of the number one mistakes they make is that they don't realize how long a career actually is, because they've been on this track their whole life where they're always doing what they're supposed to be doing, i.e., high school, elementary school, high school, you're moving up each grade. If you're getting top marks, you're always doing what you should, dominating your extracurriculars. Like every year, the sequence is clear and you just got to be top of your class, right? But then once you kind of graduate out of the school ecosystem, you get out into the world, there's a risk that you fall into that trap with your career. Like you join a company and then you're just working towards the next promotion, working towards the next pay raise. And you're never going to leave that track if that's how you're thinking about the world, right? And it can be really uncomfortable to leave that track. When I left Bain, most people that were close to me thought I was crazy, walking away from a good salary to literally go make zero money and try to start something from scratch. And that made it a really hard leap to make. And then when I spent 2 years and essentially my startup was failing, I would be sick to my stomach every day thinking about, oh my God, I'm wasting time. Like if I was still at Bain, I would have got promoted this year and I would have made this much money. And I was thinking about this like opportunity cost of taking the risk. And it was really uncomfortable. But what I've come to realize and what I've heard a few people say since then is careers are actually like really long. You start working in your early 20s and most people are still in the game late into their 50s, 60s, even 70s these days, right? Or 80s. People, you've got a lot of time. And if you take a longer view of your career, I think it will free you up to take some risks, because guess what? If you take a risk, you go off, you do your own thing for a couple of years and it doesn't work, there's always the next move and you've got decades, right? Yeah. And so I think that's the biggest mistake. People kind of get trapped because they make good money, they're successful early, and then they feel like they got to stay on a track, when really what you should be doing is taking risk, even if it doesn't work, taking a series of calculated risks through your career, I think ultimately ends up with bigger outcomes. So that's my number one piece of advice.
But as we get older, we're not scared of the boogeyman or the monsters in our closets. We're scared of our doubts and our fears. That's what it is. It's like all these little things in our lives that we have given the exact same attribution to of the same feelings of monsters that don't exist. But the reality is our doubts and fears are just like the boogeyman. They are characters or actors that we have made up in our mind. That's what it is. It's the future is going to unfold so terribly for me, and I'm going to die, and I'm going to lose all my money, and my partner's going to divorce me, and my kids are going to hate me, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are the exact same concepts of fearing the unknown. The reality is that, man, the unknown is the most beautiful place in the world, right? It's like where you get to explore. It's why we go on vacation, is for the unknown, right? It's not to go visit a place that we have extreme familiarity and we know exactly what we're going to do. It's to experience the moments that we have no idea what they're actually going to bring. So if we're constantly going to be scared of the future and think of them to be monstrous, right? And not understand that these are truly just concepts that we have made up in our mind, then we won't ever be able to shed them. So when I think about it, like when you teach, what do we have to teach kids? Is optimism.
I just think for me, I'm not as emotionally vested in when I'm chirping as other people. Whereas like somebody could say something to me and it doesn't really bother me because I feel like I'm ultimately focused on what I'm doing, whether it's playing hockey or golfing or whatever it is, right? Even if it's like a bet or a game or something. I feel like some people just don't have the emotional stability to be able to handle something that throws them off. And I've always kind of prided myself on being focused and kind of, the old cliche is mentally tough. I don't know if that's quite accurate anymore, but I feel like I know what my goal is, and it doesn't matter what you say, you can't impact that goal. And I feel like some people can be persuaded or impacted by words. So I more or less just kind of throw things out there, and I'd always kind of consider myself like a witty chirper. I like to throw things out there that the person's going to actually, after they rebuttal to me with probably something that's not intelligent, they're going to go back to the bench or somewhere else and actually think about, what did he mean by that? And that's what I love. That's the stuff that gets into people's head. But I feel like that can't happen. That can't impact me. So that's maybe why I do it so much, to see if there's other people that it affects.